Look at this beauty. That's the London Gadget app. Welcome to AppSessions, the YouTube channel where we do jam sessions with our apps. Today we're going to take a tour of the drum machine that's inside the Korg Gadget, and it's called London. So here we are with the London, and this is the drum machine on Korg. Now there's two drum machines, but this is my favorite, and the other one is more of a kind of a synth-based drum machine. We'll talk about that later. But this one has actual drum samples built into it. So let's talk about how it works. We have at the bottom, we have 8 drum pads, and they have the distinct sound. This one's going to usually be a kick drum. This one is, these two alternate as being like the kind of percussion or the snare drum. Then you have claps and cymbals, some FX and stuff over here. So this is, and you know, there's tons and tons of kits in here. Let me see. There's 63 kits in here. But what I want to focus on is like how to manipulate the kits after you've chosen one. So we've chosen one called Rootsy. Can you hear that the delay in that? That's because the natural effect, or sorry, the default effect on Rootsy is BPM delay, which is a filter here, and there's tons of them. Let's just bypass it so we don't worry about any filters right now, and I'll talk about filters in a few minutes. Okay, so there are 3 pages for the London. The first one we're on is called Edit. This is the one where this is the main page you're gonna stay on most of the time. We're gonna tap in your sounds and kind of, you know, you can tune it. So you can pitch bend your sounds, and time is going to be like the decay of the sound. Okay, and the next is one shot, or you can toggle it to gate. Now the difference is going to be how the time is affected by the next kind of selection. If it's a one shot, it's just going to, let me set this one to one shot. If it's a one shot, then time is going to affect the decay. But if it's a gate, it's going to affect the release, and you can hold it down to get the whole sound, even if you have the time turned way down. So you can go. I never really use that very much. I would just put it at one shot the whole time. I don't know. That's just how I've been using it lately. I think that it's not really great in terms of hold or one shot, so I just put it at one shot. Really great drum machine though. Okay, so that's the first page. You can also, and this is going to be for every page, but right here you can tap on the name of the sound loaded into that trigger, and you can change it. A whole grid comes up. And what's interesting here is that not only can you select a new kind of, like right here we're doing percussions, not only can you select a new percussion for that one slot, this this page will go on for a long time, and you can even select different types of sounds for the slots. So here we're going to select different, like here's a closed hi-hat. So if you like didn't particularly like one of these synth effects, or these if you didn't like that guy, you could just add, like, you can go all the way up here. You can go all the way up forever and ever and ever, and just actually find a new kick drum. Like, so you can add anything, anywhere. You can reorganize these things pretty well. Like, I'm comparing this in my mind to the DM1 machine, where you could only change the tom for other toms in other kits. But this you could change your tom for a symbol in another kit. It doesn't matter. So there's a lot of variability in what you can add to these slots. Okay, let's go to the next page. The next page is called FX, and on the FX you have punch. Punch is like it will boost the attack of the sound. You see how it feels like it hits harder? This is most evident in like bass-oriented instruments like this kick drum. See how the attack is really, really sharp after I raise the punch? That's what that does. That's good if you want to emphasize the punch. So, and then we have low boost. Again, this will kind of like increase the lower frequencies of a sound. Filter out the highs a little bit. Sounds like it's a low pass filter a little bit. Okay, and then we also have here a reverse. No surprise on what that does. And then we have this MFX. This is the FX send. So let me change that back to BPM delay. Where is BPM? I'm going to change this FX back to BPM delay. Wherever it is. There it is. Okay. So can you hear that reverb, the beats per minute delay? I'm going to take off the FX send. And that's what that button does. It will either send it to the effect or not. Okay, in the final page called the mixer, we actually have levels for each of the sounds. The trigger is actually gone from this page. The other two pages have the triggers on them. But in this page, the mixer, the trigger is gone. You have an output here, levels, and then you have mute. Okay, and then you have the groups here. The groups here are either off, A, or B group, or off. So right now we have both the softy and the realm, or the softer and the realm. They're kind of like both hi-hats in the same group. So let me illustrate what that does. When they're in the same group, it turns the sound basically into a monophonic. So if I put the sounds on different areas in the timeline, you can hear them both distinctly. But if I put them in the same area, you can only hear the top sound because when they're in the same group, they turn into a monophonic, sounding, synth right there. So it's interesting. I don't really know the use case for it other than to say that you'd want it to be in a, I don't know, like some hi-hat work or something like that. I'm not too great at understanding why you would want to use this. But that's what it does. Okay, so let's continue down here. The level is going to be the output for the main sound. It's going to be basically the volume control. And then finally we have the effect send, or the effects. Now these two knobs will be for the effect, and they will change depending on the effect. So right here, they're time and depth for BMP delay. If I put them on room reverb, they're going to go time and level. So, I put on depth a little bit. See how each successive one becomes closer to what the original was. But if I lower that depth, they're gonna drop off significantly. Time is going to make them go further and closer apart. Right. So I mean, these effects, you're going to find them on any of the Korg instruments. Well, not any of them, but a lot of the different Korg instruments will have these effects, and they're well worth going into and checking out. They're really powerful, really interesting and important, and can add a lot of dynamism and interest to your sounds, but we're not going to go over those effects right now. But they are available on the London, and that's what I wanted to point out. So this is a quick tour of the London instrument, and let me just hammer out a quick beat for you so you can get the feel of you know, what it does. This is a 1-bar beat. I'm going to put a kick drum on the first and third and a snare drum on the second and fourth. And press go. Now I don't want that that snare drum on going through that BMP delay. So I'm going to run over to the FX and I'm going to remove it from the FX send right there. I have a lot of other drum machine apps installed on my iPad, but this is one of my favorites. I really wish that I could organize these pads into a more finger drumming accessible style, but regardless, like the abilities and, like, you know, it got the Korg timeline, the piano roll, which is like my favorite of any of the apps that use a piano roll. I just really think it's great. So this has been the tour of the London. It's one of the most fun foundational gadgets in the Gadget app from Korg, and I hope that you mess with it and make some killer beats.